Mixed signals on the India-US trade deal cloud sentiment, as do cues from corporate earnings keeping stocks in check. Realty and healthcare are the big drags, while metals, financials and IT eke out some gains.
In a sudden move, Bajaj Finance Managing Director Anup Saha resigns with immediate effect. Vice Chairman Rajiv Jain will step in as MD till his term ends in March of 2028. The move sets back the company's succession plan.
Titan inks a deal to pick up 67% stake in Damas, which has a presence in jewelry across the GCC at a valuation of a tad over Rs 2,400 crores. The deal offers Titan an option to buy the remaining 33% in the future.
Zomato and Blinkit owner Eternal stock surges on its bottoming out call for quick commerce and it's scripting a path to growth and profitability. Peer Swiggy and stakeholder Info Edge also rally.
Jagdeep Dhankar resigns from the Vice President's post, citing health concerns and the need to follow medical advice. In his resignation letter, he says the decision was taken to prioritize healthcare in light of ongoing health issues. Hello and welcome to Business Lunch live from the CNBC-TV18 Motilal Oswal studio. I am Bamakshi Thoria and with me is Hormaz Patakia. Well, good afternoon to you, Hormaz. It has been a very good recovery from the day's lowest points. I think it is almost a 70 to 80 points recovery coming in for the Nifty. When we look at the advanced decline ratio, though, it is more or less, going 1:1. The mid-cap end of the market, though, is taking a very sharp knock in today's trading session. The mid-cap index is down almost 0.3%, Hormaz.
Results are starting to come in now and you're counting down to some big numbers. The numbers of Colgate flashing on your screen. Mangalam just spoke about it a few minutes earlier. Anticipating recovery to come in on the second half of the year. So interesting to see. The stock has recovered though from the lows of the day. It'll be interesting to see what the volume growth number throws up for Colgate this time around. But the other earnings that I wanted to just highlight before we move to Zomato is Blue Jet Healthcare. The numbers just came in a few minutes earlier. The stock is down 10%. And even as the numbers year on year look good because there has been an expansion on all parameters, sequentially, the numbers have taken a bit of a knock and the margins are down almost 7 percentage points from the March quarter. And that has resulted in the stock taking a knock after the results announcement. There you can see 10% lower for Blue Jet Healthcare, although significantly higher than its IPO price, which is around 349. So still very much in the money. But today, the stock taking it on the chin. But the big mover of the day, the story of the morning has been Eternal, Zomato and Blinkit's owner, and that is now building on to the gains. At one point was up 15%, still holding on to gains of 12.5%, and that is because of its bottoming out call for the quick commerce business and scripting a path to growth and profitability as well. Mangalam is here to decode what is fueling this surge in Eternal.
Well, Eternal in today's trading session have hit a record high. In fact, ever since the company reported the numbers, the stock has rallied about 15% plus. And that, if you look at the reported numbers, then you'll be wondering why. Because the revenue has grown 70%. That's great. The EBITDA has fallen 35%. Margins have contracted to 60 basis points. And the net profit has fallen 90%. Now, here's why. Because a couple of things that the management spoke about are telling you that the worst is behind. One, year-on-year growth has bottomed out for the food delivery business, which implies that it will only improve from here on. And near-term, quick commerce margins too have bottomed out and they will improve from here. So let's take the food delivery business first. Over the last many quarters, the revenue growth had been coming down, and for the first time between Q4 and Q1, the revenue growth has stabilized. This is gross order value growth has stabilized at around 16%, which the management believes is the absolute bottom. And from here on, they are expecting growth to resume. That's a positive. The second part, Blinkit, which was supposed to be the growth driver of the company, continues to be the growth driver, so much so that the revenue growth of 154% has actually made it the largest revenue component in the overall business. But the problem over the last few quarters was EBITDA loss increasing due to competition. Out here, the losses have narrowed quarter on quarter, and this despite the company continuing to expand. So if you look at it, they've added almost 243 stores in this quarter, total stores going all the way up to 1544. And this, while doing so, the losses quarter on quarter have narrowed. So the Blinkit loss trend comes up for you from 178 crores, it's narrowed to 162 crores. And the management believes that in the near term, it's actually likely to see margin improvement. So two growth drivers of the company, both of them fairly in place. Which is the third one. It is District, where the management sees over the next 5 years, it could be an annual $3 billion revenue company with $150 million in annual adjusted EBITDA. So the third factor doing extremely well for them as well. The question, what about the money? Well, in the fourth quarter, they had seen a quarter-on-quarter decline in their cash balance. That too seems to be stemming right now. From the fourth quarter to now, the cash has marginally increased or cash burn has reduced as well. So all these factors doing well. The stock, which was off its highs, has now moved higher. The next big trigger is because it is now a largely domestic-owned company. They will own inventory in Blinkit as against third-party sales, and that could increase their margins in the quick commerce business by about 1% as well. And when Blinkit rise, it's not just Blinkit, because we have Swiggy, which is trading higher on the back of Eternal's performance, and it trades at a 45% discount to Eternal, so that stock is higher. And secondly, InfoEdge, which owns about 13% stake in Eternal, worth nearly 38,000 crores or 40% of its market cap, doing well in today's trading session as well. But the data point or the picture that caught my eye was that on the shareholders' letter. It had 3 businesses, all of them with clear positioning. Zomato for Eternal, aaj kya khaoge? District, aaj kahan jaoge, is the going out business. And Blinkit, finally, aaj kya mangwaoge? 3 business propositions, all of them clarified in their shareholders' letter.
Well, thanks so much for that, Mangalam. Interesting data out there for Eternal, and no wonder the stock is the star performer of the day. But take a look at Max Financial. Just a short while ago, there were flashes at the bottom of your screen which indicated that sources were suggesting that Axis Bank could pick up an additional 10% stake in Axis Max Life. So resultantly, the stock has surged to the highest point of the day, a very sharp spike coming in on this counter. But let's also focus in on Bajaj Finance then, as its MD and CEO Anup Kumar Saha has tendered his resignation, and Rajiv Jain has been redesignated as the VC and MD. Now, several reports have emerged thereafter on Saha's potential next stint. Ritu joins us with more details. Ritu?
Well, our sources indicate it may be too early to assume that Anup Saha resigned from his position as the MD of Bajaj Finance to take over the top job at IndusInd Bank. Remember, we were the first to report that Anup Saha is among the 3 candidates who are in the running for the IndusInd Bank CEO role. And while his name being in the mix may have had some bearing on internal dynamics at Bajaj Finance, we understand RBI is yet to clear a name for the IndusInd role. So the idea that he quit specifically to join IndusInd may be a bit premature. But that said, the resignation itself has come as a surprise, given he was being groomed for the position for the last couple of years and only took over as the MD in April, and so him quitting the role in just under 4 months has raised some questions. Equally important is the fact that Bajaj Finance's long-term MD Rajiv Jain is back at the helm, and he's going to serve as the MD for the remainder of his term until March of 2028. Now, while this will provide a smooth transition for Bajaj, the focus will also move to succession planning. Now, remember, Rajiv Jain has spent more than 15 years as the MD of the company, and while RBI rules limit bank CEO terms to 15 years, there is no such cap for NBFC, so technically he can continue, but the company will still be under pressure to groom the next line of leadership. Now, Jeffries points out that Rajiv Jain may now need to pull back from any advisory role at Bajaj Finserv, and Morgan Stanley calls this a setback to the succession plan that the company had been executing. But with Rajiv Jain back in the driver's seat, they say the situation remains manageable.
Ritu, thanks a lot for that. Keep an eye out on Bajaj Finance and a lot of the other lenders that are in focus as well. Take a short break. More updates from the India-US trade deal talks on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, the US-India trade deal ahead of the 1st August deadline is unlikely, with both nations trying to hold further deal-related talks in New Delhi next month. Parikshit is here with more details on this. Parikshit.
Any interim deal between India and US or a mini trade deal before the 1st of August looks unlikely as of now. In fact, the possibility is likely to be ruled out altogether. This is because the talks between India and United States are stalled on certain key issues. Number one, US President Donald Trump has offered a deal to India which is very similar to Indonesia and Vietnam. And India wants a competitive advantage over these countries and not a tariff arrangement on similar lines. Number two, the deal is also stalled because the US government wants to impose a 20% tariff on Indian goods coming into America. On the other hand, they want zero tariff duty treatment in the Indian market for American goods. This is not acceptable to the Indian side because we want the deal to be a win-win and a reciprocal deal. Also, on agriculture and dairy, we believe that the US administration is still pushing for the inclusion of agriculture and dairy items in any kind of trade deal or understanding before the 1st of August. And India will not compromise on these issues. These are red lines in any trade negotiation. Therefore, currently the Indian side has refused to have any further negotiations, at least this month. Talks will continue for a larger bilateral trade agreement. A US team headed by their negotiator Brendan Lynch will be coming to India in August to try and see if there can be a breakthrough in talks with India. For the moment, there is a 10% baseline tariff that the US has imposed on Indian goods, apart from sectoral tariffs on automobiles, on steel and aluminium. It remains to be seen whether the US will impose a 26% reciprocal tariff on India come the 1st of August if a trade deal before that is not agreed upon.
Well, thanks so much for that, Parikshit. That is something that all of the market participants will be watching out for. But let's also listen in to what the US Secretary Scott Bessent had to say on the pending trade deals.
Talks are moving along, but the important thing here is the quality of the deal, not the timing of the deals. And President Trump has created maximum leverage, as only he can do. And what we are seeing is like these imbalances built up over 20, 30, 40 years, and we are more concerned with high-quality deals than getting these deals done by August 1st. Our trading partners were told that the rates could boomerang back toward the April 2nd levels. We can continue talking then, but again, we're proceeding at pace with the negotiations, but we're not going to rush for the sake of doing deals.
Scott Bessent on the India-US trade deal. But the big domestic development from last evening was that Jagdeep Dhankar has resigned from the vice president's post, citing health concerns. CNN News 18's Aman Sharma is joining in with more details on this. Aman.
So Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar has resigned. His resignation has also been accepted by the government. The Prime Minister has put out a statement commending the contributions of Jagdeep Dhankar in various positions. But what is the inside story? Is it that the government was upset with him yesterday after he accepted the impeachment motion moved by 65-odd opposition MPs? And did Mr. Dhankar not keep the government in loop about this particular impeachment motion? Remember, senior ministers like JP Nadda and Kiran Rijiju subsequently did not attend the BAC meeting called by Mr. Dhankar at 4:30 p.m. Though now Mr. Nadda and Mr. Rijiju both have said that a message was sent to Mr. Dhankar that they were busy. But this is a surprise series of events. Mr. Dhankar had just spent about 3 years in this post, and his resignation with immediate effect, which he has written to the president and which has now been accepted, throws open a host of speculations. Was he getting too friendly with the Congress leaders? Was he giving them the extra, benefit? Sometimes, it is a complete change of the situation, because just a few months back, the Congress had moved an impeachment motion against Mr. Jagdeep Dhankar in December 2024. What changed completely in the next 6 months, where now there is hushed talk in the parliament corridors that he was being soft, maybe on being too friendly with the Congress leaders. He had met Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge at the VP estate some days ago. Arvind Kejriwal he had met at his residence on Sunday. What has really happened remains under wraps, but it is one thing is very, very clear, that Mr. Jagdeep Dhankar's resignation has come as a surprise and a shock to many, and he is hung his boots just 3 years into his tenure.
Well, meanwhile, protests marked day 2 of the monsoon session of the parliament. Opposition MPs, including Rahul Gandhi and Akhilesh Yadav, protested against the Election Commission's voter roll revision in Bihar. The opposition MPs gathered on the steps of Makar Dwar of Parliament and raised slogans against the electoral roll revision, alleging that it amounts to stealing elections. In a parallel development, the resignation of Vice President of India, Jagdeep Dhankar, under Article 67A of the Constitution was conveyed in the Parliament. While opposition leaders expressed some concerns about the Vice President's sudden resignation, listen in to some of them.
There was a health scare with regards to his heart, and he had undergone a surgery. At that time, too, he was back in the chair and he was conducting the proceedings of the House. So this doesn't somehow ring true simply because he was very actively conducting the parliamentary proceedings yesterday. What was the sudden reason for his decision to cite health and step down?
उपराष्ट्रपति का इस्तीफा अचानक है और दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है.
Well, on to a CNBC TV18 exclusive then. Axis Bank wants to acquire an additional stake in Axis Max Life. Yash, who has broken the story, is joining in with more details on this. Yash, tell us more.
Well, let's just start with where Axis Bank stands as far as Axis Max Life Insurance is concerned. Axis Bank owns about 19.02% stake in Axis Max Life Insurance. They already have an approval to acquire another nearly 1% stake. This will take their holdings to about 19.99%, approximately 20%. What we've been given to understand is that Axis Bank wants to acquire an additional 10% stake beyond this 20% stake, which they already have the permission to acquire, and out of which 19% is what they already own. What we've been given to understand is that the thinking originally was also to acquire about 30% stake and be a promoter entity to Axis Max Life Insurance. Back then, RBI gave them the approval to acquire only about 20% stake. And now, very soon is what we've been given to understand from our sources, Axis Bank could reach out to the Reserve Bank of India seeking an approval to acquire an additional 10% stake when it comes to the life insurance subsidiary, that is Axis Max Life Insurance. As I said, what this will do is make Axis Bank the promoter entity for Axis Max Life Insurance. And if you see the large life insurance companies, all of them, the top 5, they have banks as their parent entities or the promoter entities. You speak about ICICI Prudential Life with ICICI Bank, SBI Life with State Bank of India, HDFC Standard Life with of course, HDFC Bank as the promoter entity, and now Axis Bank also, likely to walk on the same road. As far as the timeline is concerned, sources tell us that Axis Bank currently is in the process of settling one of the cases with respect to acquisition of the first 20% stake in Axis Max Life Insurance with SEBI. As soon as that particular case ends, it would look to reach out to the Reserve Bank of India for that acquisition of 10% stake. This is likely to be done through a preferential issue and may get as much as 5,000 crore as far as Axis Max Life Insurance is concerned.
Yes. Absolutely, Yash. A very important, sort of news break out there. We'll have to watch for that counter. The stock is up almost 1.4% in today's trading session. But let's take a very short break for now. More news and updates on the other side, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch on CNBC TV18. Well, some news from the IMF. Noted economist and IMF's first deputy managing director, Geeta Gopinath, will be leaving the organization at the end of August. She will be returning to academia at Harvard University. The Indian origin economist had joined the IMF in January 2019 as chief economist and was then promoted to first deputy managing director in January 2022.
Now, a day after the Bombay High Court acquitted 12 convicts in the 7/11 Mumbai blast case, the government is set to challenge the court's verdict. The Supreme Court is set to hear the matter on Wednesday after the government sought an urgent hearing. Earlier, the Bombay High Court had slammed the prosecution for not proving involvement of the accused beyond doubt.
As we end today's edition of Business Lunch, we leave you with the visuals of the British F-35 fighter jet finally leaving India 5 weeks after its emergency landing at Trivandrum Airport.